the big one that really sticks in my mind from last Thursday was the speech by Minority Leader Casey Schreiner out of the House. He's a Democrat, and he said, "Hey, we're 42 strong, and we got everything we wanted. And thank you for the Republicans across the aisle." So that made for an interesting conversation amongst the legislators for the throughout that weekend. So, I think that when we look at bills on their merit, we got a lot of good bills for Montana that have got passed through the House and the Senate. Over 300 bills have now been sent over to our governor, and he's got the next 10 days to figure out whether he's going to sign them or veto them.
What are the bills that you're most interested in seeing that are on the governor's desk right now? What are you more closely watching to see whether he vetoes or signs the legislation?
Of course, for me, we've got a number of pro-life legislation that's going to be sitting on his desk, and I think those are going to be some of the few that right off the bat we're going to see probably get a very decisive opinion from him. It's not something he's going to let sit on his desk, right? I have my Montana Baby Born Alive Protection Act that protects all babies after being born. That I mean, come on, who's ever heard of this new term, post-birth abortion? I mean, that's simply infanticide. That's murder. So hopefully he'll agree with everybody that all babies are important, and he'll sign that legislation.
You would think, because in years past, this would be pretty straightforward legislation to be able to sign. It would be a good opportunity for a Democrat to still be pro-choice technically, but yet to look like they show some common sense and they know where to draw a line. But this is a party that doesn't even know where to draw lines anymore.
Right. It's again, the lines are being pushed so far off to the side that you're right. Where do you once you move the line, where does it stop? And it's a race. It's a race to the left, not only in this area but in all areas as we watch nationally.
Yeah, but maybe he'll do it. We'll see. We're not going to hold our breath. Judy Martz, the late former Governor Judy Martz, of course, she was an Olympic speed skater, grew up in Butte, Montana, and she is Butte tough, too. For anybody who knew Judy Martz, remarkable woman. Whether you agreed with her policies as governor or not, just an incredible woman, incredibly faithful woman, and, of course, she lost a tough battle with cancer here recently. But you actually passed legislation to help honor Judy Martz with the statue in the Capitol. First female governor, first woman governor of Montana, and actually the governor did sign and support that eventually. So that was good to see.
Yeah, it really was. Judy is a Big Timber girl. She was born and raised in Big Timber.
That's right. Yeah, down the road. Yeah.
In addition to being our first lieutenant governor that was a woman, and our first governor who was a woman, she was Olympic speed skater. She was on the Olympic team and the U.S. speed skating team for the World Championships. She was also Miss Montana, Rodeo Montana. She was, and so she's in the Cowboy Hall of Fame. I mean, this is Judy. Her spirit epitomizes what Montana is all about, and that's not be all who you can be more than who you really can be, and she did. And on Monday, the governor was very gracious and had a bill signing, and had Judy's family and her grandchildren there, had a lot of her staff there. Great signing, and then he took Judy's grandkids into his office and said, "Hey, here's your grandma's office. I'm sorry, I've got a little messy, but this is where she did all of her great work." And so he was, again, showed humor, showed graciousness, especially to the family, and I just want to commend him for that.
I didn't know Judy Martz as well as some of our friends listening in Big Timber right now, but I remember, when I was deployed overseas, first in Iraq and then in Afghanistan. Of course, I had later deployments as well. But you've been in that same boat. You know how it feels. But I remember getting a text message from Governor Judy Martz, and she says, "Hey, we're praying for you." But the thing is, a lot of people will say that, but when Judy Martz says she's praying for you, you knew that she's praying for you. I mean, you know it, you can feel it. It's not just this casual, "Hey, good morning." No, like some people, she's doing it if she says she's doing it.
Well, it's not only Judy; it's her family, it's all of her friends. She collectively brings that prayer chain along. There's no doubt about it. I met Judy and had the first time to really sit down seriously with her was back in 2012. Actually, it was 2011, and she was one of those ones that came up and said, "So, are you a member of the Women's Republican organization?" I said, "No, Judy, I'm not a woman." She says, "Hey, it takes a real man to be a woman Republican." So I've been an associate member since 2011.
That's kind of funny. So we were at the Carbon County Lincoln Reagan dinner in Joliet on Saturday night and had a fun time. I was the speaker for that one, but Tony O'Donnell, Public Service Commissioner, got up for a few minutes too, and so he was saying, "Well, I'm this and I'm this and I ran for this, and oh, by the way, I'm also a member of the or the Carbon County or I can't remember if he said Yellowstone." He said, "I'm also a member, associate member of the Republican Women," and so of course I had to go, and the whistle out in the whole room. I hope Tony got that I was joking there, but
oh yeah,
some other folks in the room did. But anyway, the prayer breakfast. You're going to be at the mayor's prayer breakfast tomorrow in Billings, so that's kind of a big event that they've been doing every year. But I know that they eventually want to reinvigorate and get it up and running again. The governor's prayer breakfast. Apparently, it's kind of faltered over the past few years.
I've been invited up here to join in and to the mayor's prayer breakfast tomorrow, and I want to thank everybody for that encouragement to come back when I was here last week. And I was also invited to a little informal gathering later tonight to talk about that issue. So, once again, there used to be a governor's prayer breakfast until the governor before this current one decided that he didn't want to participate. So yeah, there's a number of people in Montana would really like to see the heads of our government, really, point out the fact that our rights don't come from man, but come from our God.
Dr. Al Olszewski, also a state senator out of the Flathead, who's running for governor here in 2020 in Montana. And Dr. Al, always good to see you. So let's talk about the governor's race. There's all the speculation out there, and I'm sure you're probably hearing the same things that I'm hearing from a lot of folks and that other folks in the media have speculated on, is that, there's going to be a lot of folks running for governor, yourself included. But the thought is that still yet to jump in the race, the thought and what people are hearing is that Congressman Greg Gianforte will not run again for the U.S. House, that he will run for governor also. So now it's you, Attorney General Tim Fox, Secretary of State Corey Stapleton, and then Congressman Greg Gianforte would jump into the race as well. But I know that there are a lot of Republicans out there who are concerned, okay, well, who fills that House seat? And the other rumor out there is that, well, then a lot of candidates would also run for the U.S. House seat, including one name that's being thrown out there is Matt Rosendale, who, of course, lost to John Tester in the Senate race this last go-around. But there are fears as to, okay, what happens to that House seat if Gianforte does run for governor?
What I find is that for myself, once we finished legislative session and Siney died, it's game on. The campaign started. I'm already passing the 3,000-mile mark, traveling with you. Showed up at Thursday night for the Lincoln Reagan dinner here. Then I went back to Kalispell, then to Superior for their Lincoln Reagan dinner, then all the way to Chinook in a blizzard on Sunday. And here we are again. Went back to Billings, and we're off to Great Falls. Here's the thing: is that we know as elected officials that the power of the incumbency, if you're an incumbent, the chances are is that you've got a 70 to 78% chance that you're going to win your seat just because you already occupy the seat. And what I see is in Montana, we're pretty generous people. If you haven't been arrested and thrown in jail, odds are is that and you didn't take away our public lands, good chances that you're going to get elected again.
Yeah, and well, it's gonna be a big race one way or the other. You earlier when talking about the legislative session too, I fundamentally think, because all the stories are focused on, well, there's this schism in the GOP between the moderates and the conservatives. I think that fundamentally, you elect a conservative governor, that's going to fundamentally change that dynamic, because agree or disagree with what the moderates in the legislature did or have done. They would tell us if they were here right now, because I've had them on the show in the past too. They would say, well, look, at the end of the day, we're trying to get something that can get signed by the governor. So we gotta broker a deal with the other side. Well, that same will hold true if a Republican is the governor. They'll have to, at the end of the day, say, hey, Democrats, we'd love to broker a deal with you, but that's not going to get this governor's signature. So those dynamics shift. But I forget who the lawmaker was, but they said that what we basically had in the legislature were three minority parties, two Republican minority parties, the conservatives and then the moderates, and then, of course, the minority Democrat party. Your take on that?
Well, and that's sort of how things worked out. As we saw, was we were closer to Parliament over in Britain than we would ever have been. We've had a caucus of Republicans who they're the minority component of the Republican Party, but they're very strong and they vote as a bloc in both the House and the Senate. We have the remainder of the Republicans who are don't believe in trying to caucus or vote as one bloc. They believe to be independent minded, and their vote is their vote. Don't tell me what to do. I'm gonna vote on the merits of the bill. And then you've got the Republicans at, as Casey Schreiner said, 42 strong. And we got everything we wanted. Thank you, Republicans, for reaching across the aisle.
But I thought it was interesting. Okay. And congrats to Bruce Wittenberg, or, our friend Bruce Wittenberg with the Montana Historical Society. They're getting their new museum, things like that. Okay. But it's like, but still the bigger picture is, okay, so this governor and Minority Leader Schreiner, they're okay with spending $38 million on a new museum in Helena, but they couldn't give $3 million so that senior citizens could get Social Security tax relief. It's like, where are the priorities? And they're bragging, we got everything we wanted. We got this new government building. We got that new government building. Okay, but what about tax relief for seniors? What, you know what I mean? Like, what did you do? We got what you did for you. What did you do for the rest of us?
Well, you got to have money if you're going to have pet projects. And regardless, wherever you get it, you've got to get these, quote, buckets of money for the Rice Bowl, all these mystical words I hear in the legislature. But if you don't have money, you can't give it away.